us. The meeting is being recorded so we can follow our Sunshine Act law. My name is Pat Hughley Green, and this is an opportunity that is welcome. We were able to meet with you guys over Zoom. We typically have a breakfast, and next year our goal is to try to initiate this conversation later in the fall, around October, November, so we won't run into any schedule conflicts. But I do want to welcome everybody. We do have a new board member, Ms. Margot Sly.
Hello, everyone.
Those who don't know Ms. Sly.
Hey.
That's District 8, right?
Yes, ma'am.
District 8. She's, of course, replacing her long-serving, our statesman, her father, Dr. Sly. So welcome again to you, Margot. And if I don't know if our member before that was Miss Nikki Tillery. Our new member before Miss Sly is Miss Nikki Tillery. And we just want to, you have a booklet that you all have been delivered by Representative Hughley. Thank you so much, Representative Hughley, for being our external pony from the MCSD. We appreciate all of that. And I know we have a new state representative as well, Mr. Teddy Reese, who's replacing Representative Smyrie, Mr. Calvin Smyrie. So with that, we won't keep you long. I understand we had a 30-minute window, and this was a good day for you all to meet before you start your morning committee meetings. And we're going to just kind of get right to the point so that you can understand what's important to us and what continues to be important to us as we all work together to advocate on behalf of our students and our employees in Georgia. So I'll turn it over to our superintendent with that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Green. And if you've got the document in front of you, we're going to go to the 6th tab. Just start with a few highlights. Just want to give you some brag points that I'm proud of, and I hope that you, as our representatives, are as well. It's called the Plan to Progress, and this is based off of the 10-year plan that I initiated when I first came to the district, and we've updated it periodically. But I'm proud to say, by and large, everything has been moving very, very positively and very favorably, even in spite of the pandemic that has had significant impact to our students and our families here in Muskogee, as you well know. But I'll hit some highlights. Just the fact that we've both our graduation rate hit a all-time high at 92.04. Very proud of that. And what I'm really proud of is there's really no distinguishable difference, statistical difference between white, black, Hispanic, male, female. And that's something that I think is important to note, that it's not all just one particular demographic, that across the board, we're really working to strive and make sure our students are excelling. And for anybody who might think that we're lowering standards or whatever to accomplish that, I would just point out that our SAT and ACT scores also have continued to increase across the years, including increasing participation, which typically when you increase participation, you see drops. But our SAT rates have, as you'll see there, have continued to improve and exceed those of both the state and national averages. And we're very proud of that. And same holds true in our ACT overall. So just wanted to point those things out. But also on top of that, something that's important is making sure kids connect to their futures. And we just last week received the graduation rates for all the various pathways. And I won't go into all those, but I will tell you that Muskogee County exceeded the state averages in every pathway, 2 of them which were 100% graduation rates in those pathways. So again, good work being done by our CTAE staff, our teachers, and so on. Looking down, our big initiatives continue to be the personalized learning initiative that was started back in 2017. In response to the pandemic, we have a P3 2025 initiative that is set to try and make sure that our students are back where they need to be and on grade level in literacy by 3rd grade in the year 2025. We know that the pandemic set some of our students back, and for some of them, we had varying degrees of participation by our students based on their families' needs, health concerns, and so on. So we have targeted 2025 as when we expect our 3rd graders to be reading on grade level at that point. And we have a whole plan around that. It's a 68-page document that we have provided for our accessible to our parents, our teachers, and so on. So I won't go into a lot of detail on that. Time just does not permit. Of course, CTAE, if you'll look down at the very bottom of that first page, we're very proud to be one of 5 districts, and we thank Ms. Tilley for her assistance in this, to be a heavy equipment simulator district. You may have read in the paper that these simulators are amazingly equivalent to heavy equipment out on the roadways, like bulldozers, front loaders, all the big heavy equipment. And because our district had the access to those simulators at Jordan Vocational College and Career Technical High School, we had 9 of the students, all 9 went out and took a certification test just recently, and all 9 passed with flying colors, and they will exit high school with the ability to earn a very nice salary coming right out of high school. So, and of course, we all know the need for that heavy equipment. So that's just one example of how we're trying to address the needs, both state and locally in our workforce. Also, something we're very proud about, we know how big cybersecurity is, and we have been a participant for the last 2 years. This is our 2nd year in the Cyber Start program, which gives students the opportunity to work in the cybersecurity field and kind of get an idea of what that might be if they choose to pursue a profession in that area. We in Muskogee County, as of 2 weeks ago, Georgia was the leading state to have students enrolled in this program, and Muskogee County was the leading district in the state. So that would, by virtue of that, by extension, we'd be the #1 district in the nation with the Cyber Start Academy program. So we're very excited about that as well. Turning the page to the Lighthouse Virtual Academy. We started our own virtual academy this past year. It's been very successful thus far. We have 68 students enrolled in that. And that was in response to not only the pandemic, but we know we have students, our mission statement speaks to helping all students reach their full potential. And regrettably, we have some students who their health is in such a situation they are not able to access the curriculum in a daily setting because they're going through some kind of chemotherapy or other kind of therapy. It will not allow them to be around other people. Not that all 68 students are in that situation, but it is an option. But this is, we started with our 8th and 9th grade students, and we're going to broaden it to our 7th and 10th grade students this next year. So gradually expanding the program across the board for students who this is a better option for them for whatever reason. And it's going very, very well. And this is a program, what makes this program different than most other virtual programs is this is not some canned curriculum. This is actually curriculum taught based on Georgia standards by our teachers, or at least that will be the case when it's all fully implemented. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. I think most of you are aware of the Otis Spencer Stadium that was built with the East Bluffs funds that has opened up and is drawing rave reviews from everybody who comes to use the facility. And this is something we think will benefit our local economy as well, because this will be the first facility in this general area in Southwest Georgia that will be able to host and accommodate GHSA events or other state level events that require a venue of a certain size. And as well as it's also been designed for marching band competitions, putting us in position to be able to host that. Whereas right now, the only other 2 venues big enough to do that are in Birmingham, Alabama and Atlanta. So we feel really good about what that could possibly do for the Muskogee County area. The other thing we are starting to do is work on restructuring our boundary lines. That's a slow process. We're going slow to get it right, but it has not been done in over 25 years. And we all know how the growth has shifted in Muskogee County. So we're working very diligently with our community and focus groups to establish new boundary lines for our schools to accommodate the growth and where it's shifting to going forward. And I think that's about all I can probably do in the time with the time we have here, but I did want to move to our priorities. And excuse me, my light here back on. Those automated lights are great.
Which do we need to recognize someone? It just says iPhone down at, I don't know who that other person is. I
don't know. I know that Miss Debbie Buckner is on there from iPhone. Is there another iPhone user on?
There is.
Well, I'm on iPhone,
Yeah.
but it should have my name.
It's not you.
Yeah, we see you.
It's Chairman,
Carry on. I just
It
want,
must be Miss Buckner, because I don't see her in the gallery.
okay.
It's gotta be Representative Buckner.
Okay, we'll move on.
All right.
Chairman Smith on.
So if I can turn your attention now, Jose, by the way, we have Jose Pacheco here with us from DIS helping to facilitate this.
It's
So
Miss
you'll-
Buckner. Excuse me, it
Carlos.
was me. I'm on my phone,
Okay,
Okay. but I'm on too.
Thank you.
thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Pacheco, if you'd pull up the priorities, please. So everybody can see those. I won't go through all of them because time won't permit, but I did want to highlight, and we probably need that a little bit larger if we can.
Yes, just a little bit.
Yeah. But again, for the legislative members, this is the first tab in your booklet you received. So I think healthcare has certainly been a topic we've all been concerned about, and it's certainly one that we've had shared this concern for some time. We've always advocated for pursuing other healthcare options other than the state plan, if that's a possibility. This year, I will point out that we are well aware of the governor's proposed budget, which would increase the district's contribution for employees' healthcare about $635 per employee. Obviously, that would have a significant hit to our budget. And I guess my biggest concern about that is it's my understanding that DCH has known this since 2014, but has not made us aware of this. And now they're passing along all at one time for both classified and non-classified personnel. And while the budget includes, I'll just remind you once again, as I know you're well aware, while the governor's budget covers the cost for our classified staff, our certified staff in QBE, it does not cover all of the staff that we have, as well as the non-exempt. So those are issues we certainly want to keep an eye on. I know there are people who will point to our fund balances. And the only thing I'll mention about that is two things that are important. I think you all recognize is that is a rainy day fund for when we have a crisis, much like the state. And going back to 2008, 2009, had it not been for a fairly significant fund balance at that time, we would have had to lay off a lot of personnel. So that's something that is to be considered. And then also the fund balances we have, as you know, just like the state does, when we have bonds that we have to seek in response to our eSPLOST. Of course, our bond rating is oftentimes tied to that, making sure we have 60 days to cover our expenses, our operating expenses and personnel costs. So I just want to make that point there. I know it's something to be discussed. We certainly understand and recognize the healthcare costs. My concern is that it's all coming at one time. And then also the how it's being allocated, but we certainly appreciate it being included in the governor's budget for the certified personnel, but it doesn't cover all of our certified personnel. And in 2024, will not, at this point, would not cover our non-classified personnel. Moving forward, I think certainly Mr. Robertson's been working on this, I know, about the retirement savings plan for our employees that are our PERS personnel. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do know that that's something we all are concerned about because we feel like they deserve a reasonable wage for retirement in their retirement years, for their years of dedication. Point three, we do feel like the QBE funding formula is adequate, but it does need to be updated, or at least that's my opinion. I think it's a good overall formula, but I do think it needs to be updated. One example of that is the cost of educating special needs children who sit on a wide array of the spectrum have great need for varying costs that far exceed what the QBE formula currently exists and allows for. So I would just ask for us to consider that, maybe put a study committee together to really review that in detail and bring it up to speed where it needs to be for the cost and what it really is a realistic cost in today's day and dollars. And number four, in the interest of full transparency, this is nothing new. We feel like there really should be an accounting and full transparency by the state to provide us at a point of sale how much sales tax we are receiving. As you know, we've talked about this in the past, so I won't belabor it, but it's an ongoing issue that is if we're talking about full transparency, it's one that needs to be addressed, in my opinion, and that of our board. especially for point of sales tax. Let's see, moving on. We still are working on, and I want to thank Representative Hughley for her efforts over the last several years to deal with some of the group home issues we've had. This is still an issue, though. We have to get school districts to be better informed about students that are coming to us in the group homes. As you know, we have a large number of group homes in Columbus, and sometimes we don't receive timely information about those students. And on occasion, we find out that they have been in a criminal situation, and we don't always get the information in a timely manner. And it's difficult for us to explain to parents, and rightfully so, why a student would be in the general population if they've had some kind of egregious or violent behavior in their past. So we need to know that in a timely basis. It's getting better, but unfortunately, all the people that we worked with prior when Ms. Hughley was part of this process and so on, have moved on. So there's quite a bit of turnover in that department, as you might imagine. And so we have to continually re-educate that group on helping us to stay informed. Looking at number 6, the infrastructure funding to support state government to be used for the purpose of upgrading cybersecurity in local governments. Again, that's one I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but it's well known and documented. Advocate for E-rate connectivity beyond schools. This is really a problem that, as you know, sometimes schools, that's one thing, but we have technology deserts even right here in Columbus. And with so much of our information and curriculum being disseminated by way of technology, it's critically important that where not only we talk about rural connectivity, but even in areas like Macon, Savannah, Columbus, we still have technology deserts. So if we can get E-rate connectivity that could help us with that and advocate for that, that would be much appreciated. Of course, we want to continue to advocate for as much as possible local control, and I know most of you support that as well, if not all. Enhancing student safety, that's something that I think is being addressed in the governor's budget. He is talking about an allocation of $50,000 per school to help with providing for student safety. Of course, the devil's always in the details, and I haven't seen any bill or language around that just yet, but I note that is an item that is being proposed in the governor's budget, and I hope that you would support that for all the reasons we know are important. Student transportation, as we mentioned earlier, for some that were on the call earlier, student transportation has been shifted from the state to the local districts, and we just would ask there be consideration down the road to help us. I think in the past several years, we've been allocated one or two buses a year. That's why we had to include it in our East Lost, and if that's the way we need to go, that's fine. However, it's just a recognition that at one time the state was providing much more money for transportation, and that has now shifted primarily to the districts. And if there is an opportunity to, and I do know that there are some discussions around allocating more money for transportation, but I would encourage that as well, just to help us get back to prior 2008 levels. Number 11 is something that is critically important, especially in light of the pandemic, but it's been an ongoing problem even before the pandemic. And again, this is being addressed in the governor's budget with counselors. And I am so appreciative of that. Right now, I think if you were to look at most high schools in the state of Georgia, unless they're in a very small district, the ratio is just untenable. Sometimes 600 to 1, and there's no counselor worth their salt that can get to all the needs of a student, much less counseling for graduation and so on like that. So anything the governor, I think he's put $250 million in the budget toward providing counselors. Again, the devil will be in the details, but that is greatly appreciated. And I would ask for your support for that, because we definitely need that to help work with our students on their social emotional aspects, but also to help continue for graduation and looking toward their future. And I think those are the highlights. You have some rationale there for each one of the points we made. Is there anything from the board members I've missed? I've tried to do that in the interest of your time.
No, unless board members, have a question at this point, but there was a legislative part of the delegation had a town hall meeting that addressed some of that. Representative Hughley, I don't know if you want to kind of highlight some of the things, because these, as board members know, the list has been pretty much the same. And so it was kind of refreshing to hear that one or two things on our list, it maybe has some light on it. Let's say it that way. So I know Representative Hughley did have some updated information at their town hall meeting.
Thank you. I'm going to yield to Representative Buckner. The first thing was on the public school retirement for the non-certified employees, and she's on the retirement committee, and they're working on that. That's one. I'll yield to her to convey what she shared at our meeting.
Representative Buckner, you're on mute.
Is she still, well, basically she's saying that their committee is working on that, and retirement bills have a 2-year life cycle. And they're in the first year, and so that they can be reviewed, and then they're acted on in the second year. But she did say that the retirement committee was working on enhancing the retirement for non-certificated employees. And we have other members. I think Representative Smith is also on retirement, or he used to be, so he might want to weigh in on that as well.
Well, Senator Randy Robertson is also, last year was a member of that retirement committee as well, I believe.
I used to be on there. I'm not anymore. Hadn't been on the last 5 years.
Senator, are you still on the committee?
If I can inject something here really quick, I chaired retirement last session and the last 2 years, and what we had done, something that Superintendent Lewis alluded to, is we recently held a subcommittee meeting at the Columbus Public Library focusing on bus drivers, food service workers, custodians, and maintenance, and looked at the current retirement system. I'm working with Jim and Kelly out of the retirement office that Chairman Harbison and I have worked with before on several issues involving the district. And we're looking at probably something that would not require 2 years, but we're talking about it now, is eliminating the multiplier that was placed in there that would kind of untether the state when it comes to addressing funding for some of these shortfalls. We have bus drivers and food service workers right now that are working 25 to 30 years and retiring with $300 a month retirement.
That's right. That's right. That's criminal.
Yeah, we have districts around the state that aren't paying into Social Security. So the
Right.
only retirement men and women are having. I spoke to a bus driver from Valdosta or South Georgia, and she was telling me that she drives 2 routes in the mornings, 2 routes in the afternoon, and she works at McDonald's in Jacksonville, Florida in the evening. And these are individuals who are as dedicated as any classroom teacher, as any administrator, as any elected official. And I just think we need to become aggressive in helping these individuals. I understand, and I've said it 1,000 times ad nauseum, none of us would be here without a good teacher.
Right.
But I could have never gotten to my good teachers in Harris County if it wasn't for Mr. Lewis picking me and my sisters up every morning and carrying us to school and picking us up every afternoon home. So that's just a passion of mine. I'm no longer on retirement. I'm not chairing it as a part of leadership now. I'm prohibited from chairing a committee, but I'm not prohibited from continuing to push for this legislation. And any support from the district, I have the support of the delegation's always been engaged, but any support from the district would be greatly appreciated.
Whatever you
Well, let me
that
ask
looks like.
you for clarity, because you did highlight specific occupation, and that public education employee retirement fund would also include certain roles like paraprofessionals.
Correct.
And I just wanted to make sure the focus was just not on those specific professions, but on that public education retirement fund, correct?
The reason these individuals are focused is because, you know, when I drive through Harris County, I don't see a lot of signs saying parapros needed. And when I drive through Meriwether, I don't see it. Well, the reason these were targeted is because of the substantial downturn we've had over the past few years, especially when it comes to transportation, which is so important. And it's just hard for us to find individuals with commercial driver's license who are coming in. But you are right. This would impact everybody that falls within that retirement plan.
Okay, great. I
But-
wanted to make sure. And
Right.
let me assure you, Senator, that we need the parapros too. We do not have the signs. You're correct, but all of the positions are impacted that go into educating the whole child. So thank you so much for your work.
Pat,
Mhm.
can I
What we're
say
not
something a
doing
minute?
is the intent here is we're not creating gaps between particular responsibilities. It'll address everybody in there. Nobody's
Perfect.
trying to say one's more important than the other. But the key
Yes.
is the individuals who drove from all over the state to come to Columbus were primarily maintenance workers, in what my grandmother was and what I refer to as a cafeteria lady, and maintenance workers and bus drivers. And they drove from all over the state. They carpooled to come in there. And when we started looking at the pitiful retirement
Right.
that these individuals were looking forward to, and then they were supposed to care too, they were just very outspoken. But no, this would impact everybody within that.
In the PES. Okay, great.
Can-
Ms. Buckman, you were wanting to.
Yeah. can
Oh,
we
okay.
wrap-
I didn't know if you had anybody that was muted, but I just want to say one thing in terms of the retirement for classified people. As I heard them say that the retirement salary was $350, and I wanted to add that just to say how desperate it was, the health insurance costs more than the retirement for many of these people. So it's a desperate situation, and I just wanted that also added.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Senator
and to
Harbison.
that point, if I may just also make a couple of points about the healthcare, that increase again that we know is going to be necessary in that one-time clunk. That's going to be, in most cases or many cases, the healthcare is going to it's going to cost more for the healthcare than their salaries.
Yeah.
Hey, I have got a meeting I have to be at. Thank all of you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And with the one last thing I do want to say, I know some of you, a bill was introduced yesterday, House Bill 54. It raises the cap of private citizens or corporations to be able to add to the voucher for private schools. Just a little recap, a little research of mine. It was first implemented with $58 million in 2018. Last year, it was the cap was extended to 120 million, 120 million. And the proposal is to extend that to $200 million. And the way I saw the budgetary briefing last week, and what concerns me is to raise any cap like that when we are anticipating lower collections on taxes this year at the state level. So to raise a cap on that when we are expecting projected lower tax collections is a concern. But on the second part of that, I would advocate for this, any money that goes to private school, they should be held to the same standards for accountability and transparency. And this is just my personal view. This is not necessarily one of the board. I'm just giving my personal view, but since I have the opportunity, I'm going to say it. They should be given, they should take the same Georgia milestones test and have the results published. And the reason I say that is because in some private schools, they're giving something known as the ITBS, which is the Iowa test of basic skills, and the CTBS, the California test of basic skills. The Georgia milestones is anything but a basic skills test.
Okay.
And there's no way they are equivalent or equitable. And by the same token, they should publish the results so we could all have a full understanding of the transparency and accountability for everyone that is receiving public dollars.
All right, Senator Harbison, you were trying to.
Yes, like the rest of us, we have other meetings we have to go to at 9 o'clock, and I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate this virtual meeting, great information, great concerns that we, as usual, will focus on and make sure we do what we can to make sure we take care of our districts, okay?
Thank you.
And
All right, thank you all so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
thank you.
Thank you,
we
board
have-
members,
and-
also
and-
for your time.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you.
Appreciate
All right,
appreciate it.
bye.
Oh, okay.
Thank you all.